Right. Good afternoon and good morning once more, ladies and gentlemen. It's 3 p.m. We starting our session, our webinar. Allow me to welcome you to this Exporting to the US webinar, a webinar co-organized by USA Trade Hub and its partners with special focus.
Shall I turn my speaker off?
Right, with special focus on the US market, as well as the Northern Cape province of South Africa. Why the US? It's a major market, and we also capitalizing on AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. So before I share with you the structure of this session, what I'll do right now is just to introduce myself quickly. My name is Cosmas Mamunze. I'm the portfolio manager at USA Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub, looking after South Africa. We've got different clusters. We've got the South Africa cluster, Botswana, Malawi, Namibia cluster, Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique and Angola cluster, and the Zambia cluster. It's nine countries. So I look after the South Africa cluster. Allow me again to welcome you to this session. Just some basic ground rules before I indicate to you the structure of this session. Some basic ground rules. Let's all mute our mics, switch off our cameras, and allow the presenters, only the presenters and those that have been asked to come on the platform to switch on and their cameras and to unmute their mics. And should you have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat box. They will be harvested and then they will be attended to during the question and answer session. And also the presentations that are going to be shared today, they will also be posted. The webinar recording actually will be posted on the USA Trade Hub website, and the presentations will be shared. The presentations will be shared with the audience. Those are the basic ground rules. So in terms of how the structure of the session, can you have the next slide, please? Right, so we've got various speakers that are going to be talking to us, various presenters. I will be introducing them as they come onto the platform. But at the moment, allow me to introduce Frank O'Brien. He's the Chief of Party of USAID Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub with vast experience working to develop market systems and promoting public-private partnerships. He has worked in East and Southern Africa, the Middle East, and in Central Asia. So without further ado, Frank, you've got the podium.
Thank you very much, Cos. Thank you for the introduction and welcome everybody to this afternoon session. As Cos says, my name is Frank O'Brien and I am the Chief Party for the USAID Trade Hub. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Frank.
Good. Yeah, I'm Chief of Party for the Trade Hub, and I actually joined the project back in October for year 6, which is the last year of the project. The project has been implemented since 2017, and we're now entering our last year, and the project will end at the end of September of this year. But I would in particular like to welcome our partners today, and I'm delighted that the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, Northern Cape Provincial Government is co-hosting this with us. And I would also like to welcome the businesses from Northern Cape that are joining us today. And in addition to our various speakers who have come on for this session. One of the things I always think about these sessions is that there are many sessions like this, but it's always what you put into them is what you get out of them. So please feel free to ask whatever questions you would like to ask. And even if the session has finished, we will have a range of contacts for people to get in touch with. So even though the session is only for 1.5 or 2 hours this afternoon, it doesn't mean that we're not available to answer any questions on exporting to the US. Exporting to the US is something which can appear daunting and complicated, but it's something that if you follow it systematically, the approach is already well prescribed. So following it systematically and asking if something is not clear can make a big difference to understanding how to access, to gain entry and to retain business in the US. So I really do hope that our participants today will find this session useful. I'll just give a very, very brief overview of the project and its objectives. Some of you may already know what they are, so my apologies to those of you who do. And for those of you who don't, this will only take 1 minute because we have a lot to cover. So if you can have the next slide, please. So the project has 3 main objectives. One is for regional markets within Southern Africa to export more produce to South Africa, with the intention of selling to South Africa and, where possible, to export beyond South Africa into the US. Objective number 2 is to support increased investment from South Africa into regional Southern African countries. As Cos mentioned, we are working across 9 countries in Southern Africa, including South Africa. So those countries are Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, and Zambia. So they are the countries, and Malawi, and they are the countries we are working in. So all of our efforts as a project are designed to increase exports from those countries into South Africa and beyond to the US, and supporting Southern African investment into those particular countries, which would further stimulate additional exports back into South Africa and onto the US. And then objective number 3 is under the AGOA Act, which is really targeting support for Southern African countries to be able to export to the US for particular products and commodities. And we will be covering more of that this afternoon. The other two features mentioned on the slide regarding Zambia and East Africa are less relevant for this particular presentation, but we do have active participation supporting World Trade Organization development and trade facilitation in Zambia, and likewise in East Africa, in particular Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. But the main focus of our project is really Southern Africa, and the focus of today is supporting businesses in Northern Cape to be able to export into the US market. So with that, I will hand over to the next speaker. And once again, thank you all for joining. And please, as we go through the presentations, please make notes of what you would like to ask. And do remember that we are here beyond the presentation to assist where we can. Thank you, everybody. Back to you, Cos.
Thank you very much, Frank, for the welcoming remarks. Our next speaker is Hendrik Louw. He's acting CEO, Northern Cape Economic Development Trade and Investment Agents, NEDA. He's got masters in development sciences from University of Free State. He has more than 20 years work experience, and most of this he gained in the private and public sector in terms of socio-economic development, investment, and project management. Hendrik, please come to the podium. Over to you.
Hi, Cos.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Frank. Hi, colleagues. Rian Vari here from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. From our side, welcome to all the participants. Mr. Louw just indicated he will join within a minute, Cos. So if you can just give him a minute, then he'll start his presentation. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Afternoon, colleagues. My humble apologies. We are in. I was just quickly caught up with the final negotiations with another entity. But at least we've both agreed and we'll be signing the agreement.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Afternoon, sir. As mentioned, my name is Hendrik Lowe. I'm from the Northern Cape. I'm the acting CEO, and it's my privilege today to take you then through our presentation. I think the most important part this afternoon is, ladies and gentlemen, is just to briefly take you through the Northern Cape. I literally want to take you through and just say this is reference information, and we are looking forward to assist you with any more detailed information going forward. Pertaining the overview that we'll be having is ladies and gentlemen, is basically the first things that we want to outline is to say that definitely that we are a well-governed state and a province, I think, within the country and notorious for our financial and banking system, our insurance system, and our facilitation. Pertaining our Northern Cape geographic location, it's very central within the context of SADC. And what we take forward is in terms of that layout is how we locate regionally and interface and we offer our services. And then I will provide a bit more of the growth and development vision 2040, and you will see that the catalyst for us there is within the premise of economic transformation and development. A bit of a socioeconomic overview, our priority sectors, then our trade and investment profile, and then I want to move over towards our high impact projects shortly after, just to give you a bit more of a tangible feel of our destination orientation and our produce and export scenario, and then also the high level of those projects. As you can see, when we continue, you will see that definitely just showcasing the principle of well-governed state. But I think once again, I want to highlight that the rapid developing west coast of SADC is seeing the Northern Cape playing a critical role in terms of infrastructure, and a bit later on you'll see that definitely coming to the fore. Our location within the SADC context, noting of Namibia and Angola to the north, and then Saldanha Bay, and then Nuga, Kibega, and Cape Town to the south, gives us an ideal springboard in towards that area. And then also our location is well governed. As mentioned, with sound governance reference and with a stable socio-political environment, it does make provision for a good long-term investment. And we know what we are looking at. We're looking with a trade partner that's stable and consistency can supply to demand. But also in the very same vein, we are also looking at an investment destination that is stable and surety of our rate of return for term. Just a quick overview pertaining that is our land mass that is substantial. We are twice the size of Gauteng, which is basically our economic hub in the Northern Cape. We are larger than Germany, with 33% of South Africa's land mass, and then our population, due to migratory and industry terms, varying between 1.3 to 1.35 million people. As mentioned, in terms of our Vision 2040, you will see that we've got 4 critical pillars. The first pillar definitely relates to our economic transformation, development and prosperity. And this is firstly driven through a sectoral approach, utilizing what our sectors consume and utilizing what our primary sector produce, and then adding value within those confines. By unlocking our economy, we do know that we will address then on our social dynamics under Pillar 2. In conducting our primary economic activity and seeing to our social welfare is then also the situation that we've got an environmental conscious. And if we do not look at the renewable scenario, at the sustainable scenario, at this sustainable water and people interface with our nature, we will not be able to sustain any of number 1 and 2. And then fourth but not least, the most important is that we've got accountability to our people, accountability to you as our trade and investment partner. And we need to make sure that we keep that in place. Just in terms of our socioeconomic overview, as we can see it within the South African context, we are basically at this stage a GDP driver of around about 104 billion. I know the latest figures that we have across my table is 107 billion. That is around about 2.1% of South Africa's GDP. Our economic growth rate is fluctuating but within trend. So you must read our economic growth rate in relation to our top 10 sectors for GDA. Mining and metal ores, the public administration, finance and insurance. But you'll see that the relation of those economic drivers is then dependent on our global markets because the role of mining and agricultural exports is pertinent. The sectors that you saw is then well reflected. Our approach is then to bank on our strong sectors and then invest in our upcoming sectors. So mining and mineral beneficiation is a definite banking sector for us. But it's also an investing sector. The frontiers of our mining continuously expanding, and our key challenge remains to have mineral beneficiation. The knowledge economy, as you might know, we are then also the global custodian with the anchor of the square kilometer array. Technology that literally take us into the Big Bang Theory era. And that is housed here. And then the South African Large Telescope, where we house several countries' large telescopes. Our tourism sector expansive due to our land mass and diversity. Our manufacturing for local consumption, but also manufacturing in terms of value addition. Energy, renewable energy wise, well over 60% of South Africa's current renewable energy provision is originating from the Northern Cape. The only thing withholding us to have more is grid accessibility, our South African grid capacity. And energy is also expanding. You will know that the transition away from fossil fuels in terms of heavy hauling technology, even up to shipping, trucking, training, and aviation is moving towards the green hydrogen sectors. And this is a key component of the Northern Cape's energy strategy, is basically focusing on the export orientation of green hydrogen and the related fuels. Agriculture and agri-produce, we are key producers of top agri-produce due to our land mass and then our near-organic circumstances and conditions. And you'll see just a bit later on, and then our construction and infrastructure. Our economy, to give you an idea, in terms of 3 years ago, our GDP was a 96 to 97 billion. Our economy subsequently has ramped up to 107 billion, and that was on the backbone of construction and infrastructure development for energy and mining. So the sector definitely important. And then last but not least, we do have 330 kilometers of coastline. So therefore, our fishing and aquaculture side and our small fishing harbors, Abalone, Hake, etc. is very important. Now, when we give you a rapid overview, it's just as I've alluded to, is on the mining side. And then I just want to give you snapshots. But from the mining side, 23.4% of the Northern Cape's economy is driven from this side. 7% from of the national economy is dependent on the Northern Cape's mining portfolio. And I mean, here we've got the array of iron ore. We're one of the top 6 iron ore producers in the world. Manganese, rumored to be having 80%, of the world's resource in the Northern Cape. Zinc, we are having one of the biggest zinc conglomerates currently, same company, but a conglomerate, Black Mountain, Swartberg, and then furthermore, Namibian consolidation with the new mine expansion of Vedanta in terms of Gamsberg, in terms of a zinc cluster. This then also housing a SEZ for us, copper, lead, titanium, pig iron, zircon, gypsum. And we do know that we are dealing extensively with American companies currently looking at heavy metals and rare earths. And this related to as the energy era mineral resources. So furthermore, just in terms of agro-processing, I can promise you we've got a young wine industry in comparison, but due to the good quality of our grapes, our wine is of absolute amazing condition. To give you an idea, we used to export 60 to 70% of our wines bottled and the remainder in bulk, but of late we are exporting 80% of our wine production in bulk to key names and brands in the world who then bottle it under their logo. The pecan nut industry massive by us, and then furthermore also then citrus, rooibos tea, and very importantly is the raisin economy also ever expanding by us. From the ocean side, as I've alluded to, that coastline and that bringing us forward, extensive increase in terms of fishing quotas, but abalone, rock lobster, and also then a lot of kelp processing that we see taking place. The energy component is just becoming bigger and bigger. I think for us, it's always at the forefront of having the latest technology in terms of PV production, CSP production, concentrated solar. You do know that we host projects like the Aqua Solar Plant, one of the biggest CSP plants in the world. And then furthermore, the magnitude of wind projects, as mentioned, that well over 60% of South Africa's renewable energy component originates from the Northern Cape. But expanding on that currently is then also the green hydrogen sector, because related to green energy capacity for generating green electricity is then the related key input with our coastline, which amalgamate to become the green hydrogen export destination orientation. So currently we are in the very same ring, competing for early access market with the likes of Chile, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Jordania, Namibia. And this is the dynamics of a global economy transforming its energy consumption pattern. And I think most of us gearing ourselves for Europe with limited capacity to generate, and then also a Chinese economy that needs to transform itself. In terms of logistics and infrastructure, coinciding with all these key sectors, logistics and infrastructure become very important, and therefore the Bucco Bay Harbour, we're very excited. This will be the 10th harbour in South Africa and the first post-apartheid harbour to be built in South Africa, same as our Saul Plaatje University, the first post-apartheid university in South Africa. So we are really blessed in the Northern Cape for that. And this deep port harbour will have a strong service magnitude towards the green hydrogen sector, but also a services sector. We know the latest LPG gas finds and oil gas finds in Ubezi and Kudu gas fields, and then as an export destination for all, as just mentioned, the rare earths, heavy metals, and then furthermore manganese, iron ore. These logistics can all be catered for. Linking us with the remainder of South Africa, we have a very good interface with the Rail Cargo Hub. And this is just showing us market accessibility to global afield and distribution networks within SADC. Pertaining tourism destination, as mentioned, we host currently 6 national parks, 5 provincial reserves, and then we could have 2 transfrontier parks with a Ramsar site, the Orange River mouth. So from a premise of multitude of destination offers, Northern Cape as a tourism destination is very unique. Just in terms of our agricultural side, so I've verbally taken you through it, but I want you to feel it. I want you to see and touch it with me. And this is why I want to show you a map of the Northern Cape today and understanding our unique dynamics. In South Africa, we are blessed by 2 of the biggest rivers that running through our arid, semi-arid, desert, and savanna. That's all we have in one province. And we've literally got a piece of Portland in the north, and then we've got Houston, Texas in the south, all in one about. Just excluding the snow in Portland currently and Oregon. and Washington State. But what we have is we've got the Orange River, we've got the Vaal River, we've got then also the proposed Fjordsdrift Dam that we have. We've got the Van der Kloof Dam. So we've got high intensity, intensive agriculture. We've got a good distribution of groundwater. And then we've got open space whereby livestock ranging from venison, mutton, beef is provided for. So along our rivers, we look at the irrigation side, where fruit, nuts, vegetables, wheat, cotton is produced. And as mentioned, our open spaces, we flood with protein production. But also a high value niche market produce in terms of nuts, olives, dates, wine, dried fruits, and specifically raisins, dealing with the likes of Orange River Wine Cellar, and then well known in terms of the date sector is what we are looking at currently is coming from just exporting to world medallion dates to the world market at this stage, and all originating from over here from the Carstens farms. This is just to show you some of the produce when you as the consumer receive it in a shop like a Trader Joe's or Walmart's. We more in the Trader Joe's avenue normally. And this is some of the produce that you will find having its way to a Trader Joe's in the United States coming from South Africa. When we transition then going forward, I think another key expert side for us is then also looking at the lower Orange River. This is a beautiful scenery, colleagues. I just had to slot this in, but this is another 4,500 hectares of arable land with currently with also irrigation rights from the Orange River, which we look to develop. So you can see the beauty and the splendor of this untouched area. Our mining portfolio, an extensive mineral resource portfolio, but this is the status quo resource portfolio. Latest empirical studies have proven to us that if we take the Northern Cape, northern parts, the southern parts of Namibia, southern parts of Botswana, northwestern Limpopo in South Africa, it forms a perfect belt of the new era energy minerals. Heavy metals, heavy earths, etc., which is used in magnet manufacturing, which is used in turbine, and turbines are driven again by hydrogen, green hydrogen, hydrogen per se. So this is the next century of mining. The next century of mining will basically incorporate this belt running through, and this belt seamlessly end up in Bucco Bay towards the export destination. And along this corridor of minerals, you will see that we've also got industrial clusters with industrial nodes in industrial parks and special economic zones. This is just to show our mineral portfolio. Mpumalanga only leading us but with 1%, but I must raise the flag against Mpumalanga. I'm just joking. They exporting coal, we exporting manganese, but yet the Northern Cape a key producer of minerals. But as mentioned, the next 100 years of foresighted mining, I am sure we're going to topple Mpumalanga as one, and Northern Cape will be number one in South Africa. So pardon my competitive nature. And then just this is some of the sampling that we have.
Hendrik, I'll give you 3 more minutes just to wrap up.
Thank you very much, sir. Just on the tourism and the hunting fraternity, this is the broad array of our hunting. I know personally we host American hunters per year. Our culture, our astronomy, our fauna, our flora, and then the adventure side, the archaeology, but also the conservation side, needless to say, pressing upon one another. If I have to wrap up on that side, just briefly, the SKA, the University of Supply Chain, where we would like to partner also in terms of human capital development, the new industries that we are focused on, So from an education perspective, we are definitely looking at collaboration, strengthening our current education from primary, secondary, then to tertiary. On the renewable energy side, as mentioned, the energy, but also the green hydrogen side. And this is just our corridors and belts that we are looking at, but also not generating the electricity, but also the value addition to be green compliant. The corridor that I referred to earlier on, ladies and gentlemen, to facilitate this is then basically starting from Kathu, which is about in the middle of that map in front of you, the Kathu Industrial Park, the Uppington Industrial Park, the Namakwa Special Economic Zone leading into the Bucco Bay Deeport Harbour, and also earmarked for Deeport or SEZ status. This is just a rapid overview of the monetary value and the focus areas and the statuses of those projects. Taking you forward, and this is towards the Bucco Bay Harbour project, ladies and gentlemen. If I may say, I'm not selling timeshare, but buy your share right now in that 40 gig stake that will be going towards the world market. Going forward, you will see that we also extensively then look at all these industrial investments, but last but not least, we are also part of the South African Invest SA one-stop shops. We're representing the Northern Cape, and as an investor, we can then also facilitate you and assist you with any of these services and investment information required. As a closing remark, I can promise you that the Northern Cape is the prime investment destination that can and will and is offering you the best ranging from Mother Earth to the galaxy. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Hendrik, thank you very much for that detailed presentation regarding the Northern Cape Province. You touched on some of the sectors that USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub focuses on, which include agriculture and agro-processing, fishing and aquaculture. You also touched on mining. I just looked at the statistics, South African statistics, when it comes to ag exports in 2021 to the United States. That was around $363 million under AGOA. I'm talking about AGOA. Thank you very much for that detailed presentation. Now, from focusing on one of the 9 provinces in South Africa, Northern Cape, moving on to one of the states in the United States, that's Enterprise Florida. We've got Abigail Ellery, who is the director for the regional office, the Africa regional office. She has been responsible for creating new trade opportunities between Florida and African business entities. So you've got the right person to talk to us, drilling on the relationship or opportunities that can be pursued with Enterprise Florida. Abigail, over to you.
Thank you, Kaz. Happy Wednesday and good day to all who are on the call. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to USAID Trade Hub for allowing Florida to feature on this webinar. It is also a privilege to be included with the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, Northern Cape Provincial Government, and your clients who are joining the call. Next slide, please, Wendy. Thank you. Enterprise Florida, I'm going to refer to it as EFI from this point forward. It can be a mouthful. Enterprise Florida is the official economic development organization for the US state of Florida. It is a public-private partnership and it is chaired by Florida's governor. EFI is responsible for Florida's global branding, promoting exports and facilitating inward investments, not just from international markets, but also from other US states into Florida. EFI supports companies in their setup, relocation, expansion, or investment into Florida, and helps Florida companies export to international markets. EFI works through a statewide network of partners, which include local economic development organizations, government agencies, foreign consulates, sector associations, chambers, and other partners. Next slide, please. EFI also has a very robust, dynamic international network comprising 20 international offices in 13 countries in major markets of the world. And our office is, of course, the Africa Regional Office with unique mandates. Next slide, please. EFI has been invested in on the African continent since 2001. So it's one of the longest standing foreign trade offices on the continent. And our mandates are twofold. It's around trade, and we support two-way trade under the Africa Trade Expansion Program. We also generate FDI leads, and this is African companies who are really doing well on the continent, looking to tap into North America, South America, and Caribbean basin markets, and need to set up some kind of representation office in Florida for access to those markets. We also support general and very broad spectrum linkages and connections between the markets, and I'll elaborate on that further in my presentation. In addition to our very extensive strategic partner network, we also have boots on the ground with trade associates in various parts of Africa. Next slide, please. Understandably, this is the Florida that most people are familiar with, the Sunshine State, the beautiful beaches, theme and entertainment parks, cruise industries. Of course, it is the cruise capital of the world. And of course, among the most visited amusement destinations. And that is a huge part of Florida, with over 130 million visitors to the state each year, just with tourism. But there is a bigger picture, and I think when we go on to the next slide, we can just then present the business case for Florida. Aside from what is commonly known about Florida, its story also includes being a very powerful economic state. Just to put some context to the state of Florida, Florida is the fourth largest economy among US states, fourth to California, Texas, New York, and then Florida features. And what is fascinating is if Florida were a country, an independent nation, it would be the 19th largest in the global economy, larger than the likes of Taiwan, Switzerland, Turkey, Argentina, and Hong Kong. A GDP of over $1 trillion, large affluent market, just 22 million residents. And like I said, close to over 130 million visitors per year to the state. Florida has a blend of traditional and high-tech industries, which I'll touch on just now. So it's not just about tourism, leisure, and entertainment, and hospitality is just so much more to offer in terms of business. Next slide, please. Florida's leading economic sectors are what we call high innovation industry sectors. And some of these are listed on there. In terms of aviation, aerospace is an area of strength for Florida. These include everything from aircrafts to parts and aerospace solutions, clean technologies, everything from solar, biofuels, ocean energy, storage, smart grid efficiency, and environmental solutions. Then with life sciences, these include biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, medical devices and equipment, and healthcare generally. With information technology, it includes everything from modeling and simulation and training industries, photonics, optics, digital media, software and computing, systems design and integration, computers, microelectronics, and precision devices and telecommunications. In terms of homeland security and defense solutions, it also includes cybersecurity and also financial and professional services. So in a sense, when we talk about high innovation industries, Florida is really the place where technology, creativity, and exploration seem to converge. Next slide, please. Florida has 8 distinct economic regions within the state, and you will see that on this map, as well as 67 counties, and each county would have an economic development office that we relate to and work with for trade and FDI purposes. Next slide, please. Because Florida is so known for lifestyle and travel amenities, many people are surprised to learn that Florida is an international business leader, a global business hub, and again, an incredible destination for business, finance, trade, logistics, travel, and culture. It's home to people and companies from all over the world, 1/5 of Florida's population, and over half of Miamis are born outside of the US. And it's a state with one of the highest concentrations of foreign consulates, trade offices, binational chambers of commerce, and international banks in the US. Again, a business gateway to Latin America, as well as North America and Caribbean basin. Next slide, please. Just a few points to touch on with this slide. Florida's international trade supports over 2.5 million jobs, and its top import markets include China, Japan, Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, Brazil, Chile, Honduras, France, and the Dominican Republic. Historically, most of the trade has been with Latin American markets, but in recent years, the top export destinations have been Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Dominican Republic, and Argentina, with the top import sources being China, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, and Chile. And it's another key note is that about a third of total US trade with Latin America passes through Florida. Next slide, please. Some of the key business advantages with the US state of Florida is, as part of the US, Florida also enjoys political and economic stability, a rule-based legal system, enforceable contracts, and few restrictions in terms of capital flows. Of course, state-of-the-art multimodal advanced infrastructure and global connectivity, favorable business climate with stable pro-business regulatory frameworks. It's a very strong entrepreneurial economy, strong technology-based and ecosystem, and an unmatched quality of life. Next slide, please. I've already touched on this. Florida is the gateway to Latin America. Florida's diverse workforce includes several native speakers of Spanish, Portuguese, and French. And Florida has a natural and historical advantage of geographic, economic, cultural, and linguistic links to Latin America. So it is the gateway to those markets. Next slide, please. This slide basically measures the competitive costs against 6 other states. So California, Georgia, Illinois, New Jersey, South Carolina, and Texas, with the biggest attraction being that there is no state personal income tax. And then other competitive advantages are the lower than norm wage rates, low unionization, and highly favorable business tax climates. Next slide, please. Florida is known for its expansive multimodal infrastructure. And just looking at airlink connectivity, Florida's 20 commercial airports offer nonstop scheduled service to over 160 US and international destinations. Florida's airports have more direct flights to Latin America and Caribbean destinations than the rest of the US combined, and more than 100 airlines fly to Florida, including every international airline from the Americas and most of Europe and the Middle East. Florida also has strong deepwater ports, 15 deepwater seaports, 2 spaceports, miles and miles of rail and road infrastructure, and lastly, very strong telecommunications infrastructure. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of some of Florida's top exports and imports, and this will allow companies who are wanting to export to Florida to identify some of the opportunities that exist. So with on the export and import sides, you'll see a combination of commodities that relate to aviation, life science, and ICT, On the imports, Florida is importing everything from mining, metals, oils, apparel, textiles, even motor vehicles. And I can get a top 50 list from you. I was waiting on that data, which didn't reach me, but I could pass that on at a later stage. Just the top 50 import commodities. Next slide, please. These are some of the Enterprise Florida services that are offered to African-based clients. We keep companies updated on information on Florida's economy, the market, key industry sectors, workforce, any information relating to Florida, we are able to provide that information. We again provide broad spectrum linkages and facilitation, everything from business to business linkages, government linkages, industry associations, strategic partner linkages, whether that be chambers of commerce, educational institutions, R&D institutions, again, industry associations. We have facilitators, discussions and linkages with sister city agreements, ports agreements. We've got involved in strategic conversations with airlines for direct air service, trade events on both sides, live and virtual, both on the Florida side and African side. We get involved with those. And for those interested in setting up in Florida, we can provide everything from your city and state information, incentives, finance programs, permitting and regulatory assistance, and so forth and so on. Next slides. The next slide, please. Am I?
So you have 2 minutes, Abigail.
Sure. So these are just some of the Florida state partners that we work with. It's everything from the Executive Office of the Governor to the various 67 county offices that I mentioned, Space Florida, Visitor Florida, Career Source, and the list goes on and on. The next slide, please. I'm just going to round up in 2 minutes. Our EFI Africa strategic partners are on every level, national government level, provincial and local government level. It's everyone from the US Commercial Service, US Embassy and trade hubs all over the continent. We just work with chambers of commerce as well as industry associations. And the last 2 slides, if we can just flip through those. These are just some foreign-owned companies in Florida it's very diverse, everything from pharmaceuticals, banking, finance, and telecommunications. And then the last slide of my presentation is just the team that works with us across Africa. And again, in South Africa, in East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania. And then we have associates that is based in Zimbabwe who covers various other markets. So thank you so much for your attention. And we look forward to continuing this conversation after today. Thank you, Kat.
Abigail, thank you very much for that presentation, taking us through Florida, the 4th largest economy in the US. Thanks for the appetizer. You also mentioned some of the major import sources, and Africa is not featuring yet. And I'm hoping that by this engagement with the Northern Cape province, we are likely to see some increased exports to the United States. And for sure, we look forward to the top 50 import commodities. And then we can sift through those to see which ones we can also jump on. Again, thank you very much, Abigail. Now we're trying to redeem time, so I'll ask the next presenters to just slash or gloss over some of the slides. Our next presenter is a friend, Collie Anderson. I mentioned the other time that Collie deserves a Southern Africa passport. She's a daughter of the soil. We have worked with Registrar Corp. It covered a number of countries in terms of creating awareness on the US FDA requirements. When people say exporting to the US is a challenge, In other ways, they are saying it's FDA. And we have got Collie Anderson to talk to us about the Food and Drug Administration. Over to you, Collie.
Thank you, Coast. Thank you, USAID. Thank you, colleagues, experts, and all the different topics that we've discussed today. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am super excited. And I think a lot of people will think that I get too excited about a topic that most people are not excited about. Let me just pull up here my screen first and see if I can get that up and running. Okay, can everyone see? Coast, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so again, thank you for having me. I'm Coley Anderson with Registrar Corp. We're an FDA compliance consulting company. We're corporately based in Virginia, and we have offices all over the world, to include South Africa as one. Today, we're going to talk about FDA regulations. I mean, it's the #1 reason why often people are very hesitant to export to the United States. So today, in a very short amount of time, I'm going to try to cover some major topics here, and they're the basics, but they're the essentials. So first, let's talk about the food facility registration. You know, everyone knows that in order to do business with the United States, you must register with the FDA. You must register your facility. If you manufacture, process, package, or store food for animal or human consumption, you must register with the FDA. And then also, you know, often misconstrued, people register their offices. And if you don't manufacture, if you don't process, if you don't pack, if you don't store food, do not register your facility or your office. A lot of times this happens with brand owners, people that have third-party manufacturers manufacturing their product, but they have an office and they feel as the owner of the brand and the product that they should register their office. FDA uses those registrations to trace the food. So the main key is, if you're in doubt whether you need to register your facility, just simply ask yourself, do I manufacture? Do I process at that facility? Do I pack at that facility? Do I store food at that facility? And if you do, then you do need to register. Another important thing to think about with your registration is you cannot complete your registration without designating a U.S. agent. What is a U.S. agent? A U.S. agent is not somebody that you're doing business with, but it is the person that is there for communication purposes if FDA has a question about your product, about your processes, about your company. FDA is not calling South Africa. They're going to call your U.S. agent. So it's important that you know, when you do go to register your facility, your company, that you have to have a U.S. agent designation, or you cannot complete the registration. And to let you know, Registrar Corp acts as U.S. agent to over 30,000 companies around the world. You can choose pretty much anyone. I would advise you choose somebody that's wise, that knows about the regulations. Often people pick a warm body in the United States, like a cousin or an uncle or an importer. And I say, with the cousin or uncle, they might miss an email coming from FDA, and then your product is at risk of a violation because you don't respond. If you choose your importer you may change that relationship. You may get into a dispute about pricing and want to leave your importer, but now his name is in your registration. You want to pick a neutral U.S. agent. There are facilities, like I mentioned, that are exempt from registration. Trading companies that, you know, make the deals between South Africa or Africa in general in the United States, but they're just making the negotiation between the buyer and the manufacturer, but they're never touching the product. They don't need to register. Personal residents don't need to register, and so on. And here's a list of different facilities that don't need to register. Now, farms are a little deceiving, because if your farm is a grower and only a grower, they don't need to register. But if your farm packages and processes on site, then they do need to register. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that FDA added to the registration after many years of it being out was they realized they needed to update registrations. And so the food facility registration now must be renewed every 2 years. You know, a lot of people they're now knowing this, but there are many people that didn't know this in the past, because for the longest time, once you registered with FDA, you stayed registered and you did nothing more. You had your 11-digit number and you were done. But now FDA wants updates in that registration. Often you're updating your U.S. agent. Often you're updating your product and your processes, your addresses, your ownership. So they want you to be able to do this every 2 years. If you forget to do this, you will have your registration canceled. So please make sure that you update and renew your registration. Another very critical step that FDA has added to the registration is, first we mentioned you need to register in general. Second, you need to designate a U.S. agent. We talked about renewal of the registration, but there's another part, which is the new U.S. agent verification step. And that verification step means if you choose Registrar Corp, or if you choose Coley Anderson, or whoever you choose to be your U.S. agent within your registration, if you choose them, once you choose them, the email will go out from FDA, and FDA will ask a confirmation or verification that you are accepting to be a U.S. agent for a foreign company. So whoever you designate as your U.S. agent, they will have to accept the verification step. And if they do not do that, then your registration will not complete itself. Here's some statistics in registration, and I apologize for the late dates on these. We didn't get the updates yet, but here's just an example of how many registrations are out there and comparatively what they look like for South Africa and so on, Botswana and Namibia. These are U.S. FDA registrations, food facility registrations. And so by country, this is how many registrations there are. So they're constantly vacillating due to the fact that sometimes people don't renew and it's canceled. Often they stop doing business with the United States. So we always say, first and foremost, get your facility registered. Another step that needs to take place after registering, when you're ready to ship your product to the United States, you have to give prior notice. FDA wants to know what is at the port. Why are you sending it? Who is it going to? So it's called prior notice. And often this is filled out by your custom broker, your U.S. importer, could be your freight forwarder, but someone's got to do it. Even the foreign manufacturer can fill out a prior notice. We do them as well at Registrar Corp. But it's basically notifying FDA that what's in your shipment, basically, and the proper product codes and everything that goes with them, so that when that shipment gets to the port, FDA is aware of what it is, who it's going to, and can choose, based on that information, whether they want to stop and inspect the shipment. That's why I always tell people, know who you're doing business with. As a foreign exporter, you have a reputation score with FDA based on your shipping history. As a domestic importer, United States importer, they have a reputation with the FDA. And then the product itself has a risk level and so FDA takes those three components, the risk level of the product, the reputation of the U.S. importer, the reputation of the foreign exporter, and the reputation of even of the country, and decides, is there a high enough number, a risk number, that they will just randomly stop a shipment and check it. So you just want to make sure you know who you're doing business with and that you have your T's crossed and your I's dotted and regulation-wise, because you could get stopped and FDA will ask questions. Next, Food Canning Establishment Registration. This is called FCE. When you're out in the industry, know that term, Food Canning Establishment Registration. This is for products like canned foods, jarred foods, Tetra Pak foods, and these foods here require special attention because if not canned or processed properly, they could have botulism and make us very, very sick. So FDA came up with a second registration for these type of foods. And so the first indicator is when you see something in a can, a jar, or a Tetra Pak, it's a red flag that it may be an FCE product. That's a food canning establishment and an SID product. But that's not the only criteria. The second criteria is you look at the pH balance of the product and you look at the water activity of the product. And between those three factors, the packaging, the pH, and the water activity, it will determine whether that particular product is an FCE SID product or a low acid canned food or acidified food product that needs an additional registration. So keep in mind, FDA, once you've determined that you are a low acid or acidified food, you will have to have a second registration. And again, that registration is called FCE registration. That's Food Canning Establishment. That basically labels your facility as a food canning establishment. The SID is a submission identifier, and this is a number that's given to you by FDA, and it is basically saying that FDA has reviewed your processing of that canned good. You have to submit all of the information about how you processed and canned that food, at what temperature, the size of the packaging, and so on. FDA reviews that and gives you an SID. So the overall process is, or the label is FCE SID. So you want to make sure if you have any products in this type of packaging, you want to double check the pH balance and the water activity to determine if you are subject to FCE SID. Now, at Registrar Corp, we have some wizards. We love wizards, links that help you determine or understand regulations by FDA, because we know often they're not easily explained or understood when you go on the FDA website. So we have this, it's a free thing. You can click on the link, fcewizard.com. If you're doubting whether or not your product is an FCE product, you can click on the FCE Wizard and it will ask you some questions and it will determine whether your product requires this additional registration. SID verifiers, these are making sure that your SID numbers are still valid with FDA. And so all of these things are important, because if you ship to the United States in a can, a Tetra Pak, or a jar, and the water activity and the pH balance reflects an FCE SID requirement, and FDA, if it gets to the port and FDA doesn't see any of those numbers, then it can be detained and refused. So you want to make sure you get that done. Okay, so this says new, but it's not so new. Yes?
Sorry, Collie. Yeah, so you've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes left. Okay, wow. Yes. And I was talking really fast, okay. So bottom line is, the FDA has issued a new nutritional facts panel. Here's the old panel, here's the new one. The biggest differences are the calories are in big sizes. You'll see that here the total sugars are mentioned here. It used to be just total sugars, but now it's included added sugars. So that's really great. So basically FDA is cracking down on the detail and saying, hey, we want to know what's in this product because of certain illnesses and ailments in the United States. We want to make sure that our consumer knows what they're buying. And so here are some other content changes on the ingredient panel. Take a look at that. Make sure you're mindful. I always tell people before you ship, please make sure that you check the label. Send it to Registrar Corp. We will do a cursory glance of your label to make sure that it's proper. FDA has also changed the rack numbers, customarily consumed amounts that often represent a serving size, so that's important. Also, they have different label formats that are super awesome for your packaging, so it's accommodating for that. All the compliance dates have passed, so everybody should be compliant with their labels. Another big thing is the food safety plan, which is the preventive controls regulation. So you'll hear preventive controls regulation, but the food safety plan for the United States is called HARP-C. Make sure that you're registered with the FDA and you also have the United States food safety plan. Often people think that that's the same thing as a HACCP plan. It's not. HACCP is one thing, HARP-C is another. HARP-C is the United States food safety plan. Under the new regulation, FDA says you have to have a qualified individual that will administer and write this and oversee your food safety plan at your plant. Make sure that you have that. If FDA comes and inspects you, you have to have a qualified individual. Here are some exempt models of types of food that don't have to have the new United States food safety plan. As you see, juice and seafood is one of them. Alcohol beverages is another. Dietary supplements are exempt, but their ingredients are not for dietary supplements. So bottom line is FDA registration and requirements are super important. If you need help, you can reach out to us. And I don't think I've ever spoken as fast as I have. And these are some other solutions at Registrar Corp that can assist you with those regulations. But please feel free to reach out to us. Again, we have offices all over the world, and more specifically, we have them in South Africa at this location. Thank you. I hope that was quick enough, Coach.
Collie, thank you very much for helping us to redeem time. Thank you. We do appreciate, and thanks for appetizing us. I'm sure the province might consider talking to you separately or other entities as well for more detailed presentations and guidance. Thank you very much, Collie. Moving on, we have got Paul Fender He's going to take us through the route to market. How do we get to the importers, the retailers, the distributors in the United States? Paul, please get to the podium. Over to you. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Good morning, everyone. Warm welcome here from Texas. I will try and redeem some time for you, guys.
Thank you.
So if this presentation will start sharing. So let me jump right into it a little bit. Just an overview of On Deck and what we endeavor to do. Background for us is that we are entrepreneurs that have, I'm originally from South Africa. So we've built our own consumer goods brands here in the US, all based on Southern African agri. So we've been on this journey before. And what we've set out to do now is to create a platform to help others do the same thing, to enter this market. So when we come into the mix, it's really about the operational execution of it. And I think it's important to know that the way that we go about it is to want to make sure that we connect trade between the US and Southern Africa in a way that is done in a values-based trade basis, so that we make sure that we do it in a redemptive way that it's good for everybody involved, and that's why it's encouraging and exciting for us to be part of this conversation with you. So quickly, high level wise, the problem statement that we as a company solve is that the manufacturers and suppliers are in one part of the world and the market is in another part. And that's a multifaceted problem statement to try and solve. And I'm going to give you a high level overview of how we go about it. But in essence, I think as a summary, I want to say that our legacy has been in food and beverage for the most part, but our business now is also in cosmetics and apparel, personal defense. So it's not limited to what we do in our platform. It's not limited to just the food and beverage industry, although that's what most of the conversation is going to be about today. High-level overview of the elements that we can probably be of assistance to companies that want to enter the US with is usually it starts with sales representation, logistics infrastructure that we have. We can help takes part of the supply chain and really roll it out here in the US, meaning contract manufacturing, contract packing, or bringing in bulk and just retail ready pack on this side. We have a pretty bulky marketing team because it's always important to connect to the consumers and the hearts and minds of the American people while bringing the best of Southern Africa to the US. And then obviously, I mean, we do everything from order management, back office administration, even accounting and those elements as well. But then last thing that I'll mention here is that e-commerce is a hot topic. In connecting the trade as directly as possible between the source and the ultimate consumer. That's the name of the game. I think it's very important to note about how we operate as a company is that we're not an importer, we're a support system. We don't believe that there is ultimately sustainable margin in most consumer goods businesses for intermediaries. And that's why we're trying to be innovative in that sense and make sure that we connect the trade directly for you. And ultimately that will ensure that we also have a value proposition. Now, I think it's at this point, because I hope that was quick enough for me, but at this point, really the valuable information is coming from Jason, my colleague in California. So I'll hand over to Jason at this point.
Welcome from Southern California. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Nice.
Jason, we can hear you.
Awesome. Paul, can you pull up that screen real quick, if you don't mind? You share your screen, Paul, from yesterday.
Yeah, which one is that, Jason? I've got about retailers up at the moment. Can everybody see that?
No.
Guys, can you see the screen?
No, not yet.
Let's try stop screen sharing then and try again.
Yeah, let's try again.
I missed your call, Cause. Sorry.
Can you see it now, guys?
No.
No, not yet.
It's showing sharing from my side.
No, there's
Well,
just.
let me. I can talk to it as well on my side. So Paul gave a brief rundown, and I had the pleasure of speaking at the Fancy Food Show in Las Vegas last month in front of the South African consulate and other people there. And what Paul said, yeah, we're entrepreneurs and a route to market company, bringing brands in from South Africa mainly. I have over 30 years of experience in the food and beverage industry, and the national account manager for OnDeck. Being blessed to be part of this team here. One of the things Paul mentioned is when we bring brands in, is we want to make sure that we're good stewards with your brand. We want to make sure that when your brand, we represent your brand, that we represent it as it is our brand as well. So we take that ownership with you, and don't take it for granted that we bring brands in and we just want to just take your money and run. That's not what we're about. That's not the vision of OnDeck. That's not who we are as people. Our vision and our goal is when we succeed, you succeed, we succeed. And this is what we do here. It's watching some of the earlier presentations. It was very nice to see where Rooibos tea is. It took me 3 months just to pronounce that name correctly. And but it's nice to see where it's grown at. I just locked down a contract with Costco, one of the largest mass retailers here in the United States and different parts of the world, with Rooibos tea. And exciting to see where it comes from. But that's just one of the things we do. We bring brands in. It is my job and my responsibility to get them in front of retailers, whatever that commodity may be, whether it's tea, beverage, food. Like Paul said, we're in personal care now, defense products as far as personal defense with law enforcement stuff. So a lot of great stuff that we're doing. One of the other things that we do, I see that it was so nice, I told Paul, to actually meet people from South Africa at the Winter Fancy Food Show, because I got to connect and see what South Africa is really about. Born and raised in the United States, you really don't get to see that. But now that I get to see what we are doing as a company and helping the brands grow, helping them get to market here, that is what it's all about. The ultimate thing is we want to make sure that you succeed and brands succeed. And then we feel like, all right, if we can get that done and accomplished in South Africa, then we are doing our part here logistically, not just for OnDeck and Paul and Celia, the owners of OnDeck, but for us and the things that we do to help manage our company. We also have the capabilities to make sure that we get the brands into distributorships here. We help manage that. We help do your back office information as far as making sure all the accounting is done for you. We have people on the street to make sure your brands are taken care of at store level as well. So there's multiple things that we do at OnDeck, and it's sort of hard to speak without looking at that deck right now. But I know we're cut for time, but I would encourage anybody that has any questions about getting their product to the United States is to get a hold of Paul, myself, Dustin, or Jeff from OnDeck, and we will help logistically get your brands here to the United States, get them in front of retailers, get them in the right market, the right place, the right channel. Everybody wants their brand at everywhere. We're going to help decipher that for you. Just because you have a brand doesn't mean it's meant for every retailer. You might think it's meant for every retailer, but we know we want to do the best for you. We want to make sure that we use your financial, your money in the right place at the right time. And like I stated in the very beginning, we just want to make sure we're good stewards in everything that we do according to you guys and your brands. Another thing I think Paul mentioned is a lot of companies here in the United States, they love to do private label. And we all know what branded products are, but we have the capabilities to help you get private label in here to the United States, whether we manufacture it here, we bring the goods over here to the United States, whatever it may be. I'm getting that cause look right now. So I'll cut it off there, but I would encourage you, to get a hold of myself. If you don't have my information, get it up in the chat, get with Cause, and we can go from there. Is that quick enough, Cause? Without a deck?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
it's the guy, like the interesting people, they've had to go really fast about that stuff.
Yeah, I am so sorry for that. But I would love to talk to everybody on here because we are here to help you. We want to make sure that we help get your brand to the next level here in the United States. And Cause, if you could share my information with everybody, that'd be great, or Paul's, so we make sure we don't lose anybody here.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And Paul has typed in his email address, paul@ondeck.co. So yeah, you can follow up with him. Again, thank you very much. Now we're shifting gears a bit. We're moving into the e-commerce space. We'll start off with Warwick. And Warwick, I know you can help us redeem time as well. Maybe 10 minutes, then we're done. Then we move to Shlomo. Shlomo has agreed to do 10 minutes as well. So colleagues, if you can just stay on, we'll be done shortly. Over to you, Warwick.
Great, thanks very much, Cos. If you could put the presentation up, that would be great. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning if you in the US. My name's Warwick Blamey. I'm the CEO of African Trades Platform. It's the ATP platform. It's in a nutshell utilizes algorithms to link buyers and sellers of various products throughout sub-Saharan Africa and the rest of the world. If you could jump to the next slide, because next slide, please. It's the platform itself is a marketplace whereby buyers and sellers come onto the platform. So if you're a seller of a product, so let's say if you're in the Northern Cape, anything from minerals to agric to energy, it would come onto to the platform itself, upload your various products. You go through a full onboarding process. Then on the other side, you've got various buyers. It's placed around the world, and algorithms would then match potential transactions together. If you go to the next page, because thank you very much. It's for any transaction to take place. It's one of the biggest points where African Trade Platform plays is the trust between the buyer and seller. It's in theory you can have a seller of a product in the Northern Cape who uploads products onto a platform, and a buyer in the US who comes on to acquire the product. But it doesn't just end there. In theory, transactions just happen where buyers and sellers match up. Buyers transfer funds and products are sent to the buyer, but practically that's not the case. And that's where African Trade Platform play a vital role in the trade process by sitting in between the buyer and seller as the trusted partner, where full verifications are done on the seller as well as the buyer, which is a process that I'll run through shortly. If you could go to the next slide, please. So it's from a transaction perspective, your buyers, your suppliers, the logistics, which actually forms a huge part of any transaction, especially when it comes to the cost of the landed product in, say, for example, the US, as well as the financing of a transaction. Our African Trade Platform actually founded itself it was off the base of our commodities trading division within the group. And we've got stats that show that the majority of transactions actually fall through because of the financial structures or financing of the actual products, where you have a buyer and you have a seller, but it comes a point where somebody has to take their foot forward. So either the seller needs to deliver the products at first, or the seller needs to pay for the product, or a financial instrument such as a letter of credit is put in place. But there's a cost to that letter of credit, where the buyer issues a letter of credit and he sits with a 2% charge, and there's non-performance from the seller side. And that's the bridge that African Trade Platform is currently stepping into to assist with, where you'd have a buyer. We've got our escrow e-wallets structures that are on our platform, whereby a buyer will pay into that escrow e-wallet before any transaction takes place. And then we've got certain triggers or milestones that need to get met by the seller, whereby we'll pay out as the transaction goes, protecting the buyer and as well as protecting the seller from non-payments from the buyer. So from a trade transactions perspective, we're holding hands of both the parties to make sure that there's a smooth transaction that takes place. If you could move to the next slide, please. So if you take the day-to-day trepidations of any transactions, if you're a buyer sitting in the US, how do I find various sellers of products? So I mean, if you take the Northern Cape, where we actually do quite a large amount of our revenue is through the Northern Cape, mainly to do with iron ore and manganese. But if you are from the US side and you're looking to acquire grapes, for an example, how do you find the sellers of the grapes? How do you know that they're genuine? The specification is right, the timing is right. How do you know that you can trust the seller? You may be in the US and that product forms a vital part of your supply chain, or mix into the end product that you make, and you cannot do without it. So there's a big perspective of trust that comes into it. From a buyer's perspective, when looking at various sellers of products. And then from a supply side, how do you know that you're getting the right price for your product versus markets prices? For example, maize now, South Africa is right up to 3,700 Rand a ton, where last year it was sitting at 2,827. So from that perspective, the price deviances that continue to see themselves working through the markets on a monthly basis. From a supplier, how do I find the buyers? How do we find trustworthy buyers sitting in the US, for an example? How do we know that they're real, that we're actually going to get paid for product that we deliver? And then from a financier's perspective, it's the various hurdles that financiers will go through when looking at various transactions. If you could go to the next slide. So from a platform perspective, it's the verification of the buyers and suppliers, probably one of the biggest benefits, being the trusted partner for the buyer and the supplier. So it's standing as that intermediary, managing the full process to de-risk both parties, as well as the time that it takes to go through the various sourcing channels from a buying perspective to make sure that the product is actually available, and bringing full confidence to the transaction. As I said earlier, transactions don't just happen. It's not a case where a buyer and a supplier meet each other and it's happy days. There are so many moving parts to any transaction, and that's where our experienced team steps in and assists. If you go to the next slide. the due diligence. This comes down to the full onboarding process that any supplier or buyer has to go through. It's the specification side for various products. That's often one of the downfalls to transactions. There's various specs, differences in products that to take place. So that needs to be checked on. For an example, this last week we've had a product go through where it was verified as a grade 1. It turned out to be a grade 2. Now the whole transaction has to be reversed, where if the supplier had already paid the buyer for that product, he'd now be trying to get their funds back from the supplier, whereas in that case it was sitting in our e-wallets, where it's a straightforward reversal of the funds, and the product is uplifted and returned to the seller. So those are sort of practical steps that are taken in every transaction. Go the next slide, please. So from a platform perspective, we just take a straightforward fee based on the revenue of the transaction, and it all differs depending on the product that's going through the platform. For an example, the iron ore and manganese that we currently do out of the Northern Cape, that's you're looking at around a 1% fee versus for an example, grapes, where we would be sitting at around a 5%. So it all depends on the product itself. So because I can see you pushing for time, so I will leave it there. If anyone has got any questions, if you could just pop us a message, I'm sure our details will be shared, and from there we'll respond. But if I could just leave one last point, the African Trade Platform predominantly focuses on hold unvalue added goods. So if you think of any good that's going to be value added in a future process, that's where our main focus is. But we are moving into more value added products as we move forward. Thanks very much.
Warwick, thank you very much for the presentation. We're moving into e-commerce space. So ATP is one of those platforms, and its genesis is in South Africa. Now we move on to Albert Scott, which is based in the US, also on e-commerce. He will talk to us on how to get to Amazon. Also 10 minutes, Shlomo, over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kaz. Thanks for arranging it. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm generally told that I speak too quickly. I guess in this case, it's going to come through for me. But let me just try to share over here my screen so we can take a look at that same presentation together. All right. Kaz, can people see my screen over here? I'm just going to run through this pretty quickly here. This presentation is broken into 3 parts. First part is a discussion of the overall opportunity that's arisen with this new world of commerce called e-commerce, a new way of selling product on the internet as opposed to the brick and mortar retail. That's the first part of the presentation. The second part of the presentation is just a quick rundown of what Albert Scott does. And finally, an example of kind of what we've done for a country out of the region and kind of showing it in practice instead of hypothetical. So jumping to it, when we talk about e-commerce in the United States, we're actually talking about Amazon. Amazon is the winner of e-commerce in the United States. They are by far the largest seller online. There's no really close second. Walmart is, 10% of what Amazon is. So when it comes to sales online, we're talking about particularly Amazon, and that's the focus of this presentation. Just a little bit about my firm. My firm is called Albert Scott. We manage brands in Amazon. We build brands in Amazon. We've built over 100 or so brands. We have divisions in different categories of the Amazon management world. So we can help with listings. We can help with marketing. We can help with retail. We've been in the business for more than 5 years. We work directly with Amazon. And of course, we've been working with the South African region for already some time. Just jump into the first part, the discussion of the actual Amazon opportunity here. So there are really 2 points to why Amazon is such a large opportunity for brands looking to enter the U.S. market. First and foremost is that the actual change from brick and mortar retail to e-commerce has caused a very fundamental change in how people shop for product. It used to be that people had a cart, they push it down an aisle, they found their toothpaste, let's say, and let's say they're looking for toothpaste, they get to the toothpaste section, they see a choice of 10, 15 toothpaste, let's say they're in Walmart, which is the largest brick and mortar retailer in the United States, they'll see maybe 20 types of toothpaste. And let's say they're looking for a kid's toothpaste, they'll see maybe 3 options for kids' toothpaste. They take a kid's toothpaste and they check out. Today, with e-commerce, it's very, very different. So while Walmart only carries about 120,000 products, Amazon carries 400 million products. And what that allows for is that on Walmart, when you're shopping for Blueberry kids toothpaste, you may or may not find maybe 1 or 2 options. On Amazon, you can search Blueberry kids toothpaste and find 20 options. So what has happened is that there is an expansion of the product selection and an expansion of the aisles, so to speak, of the retailer. And by aisles on e-commerce, we don't actually mean a physical aisle where you push a cart. We're referring to the search that people search and therefore display products. So it used to be that people pushed their cart down an aisle and found the product they're looking for. Today, people sit on their couch, they go on their computer, they search something, and that's how they find what they're looking for. And where a standard Walmart may have 40 to 80 aisles, depending on how large it is, and Amazon has millions of aisles. There's an aisle for every particular product, and within a product, there can be more than 1 aisle. And that, what I mean by that is there's a search for toothpaste, then there's a search for kids' toothpaste, and then there's a search for kids' Blueberry toothpaste. So it used to be that, you know, if you wanted to see a selection of kids' Blueberry toothpaste, or if you had a kids' Blueberry toothpaste you wanted to sell, you had to beat, you know, another kids' Blueberry toothpaste to get on the shelf of Walmart. Today, there is a search in an aisle for that specific search for that specific product, and you can compete alongside other products. And that's the first level of the massive opportunity, is the ability to display product to the customer with much more space for displaying many more aisles and much more availability for product. The second reason why it's a massive opportunity for young brands to kind of gain market share is the fundamental nature of how products got into retailers. Prior to e-commerce, the way that you sold in a retailer, take Walmart, for example, was fully relationship based. You had to convince a buyer why your toothpaste is going to outsell the other toothpaste that's already on the shelf. And to do so is no easy task. That toothpaste brand usually has a long relationship with the retailer. They've spent tens of millions of dollars on marketing. They have a history of sales behind them. They're a proven concept and therefore are going to have a much easier time convincing a buyer from a retailer saying, hey guys, listen, take this toothpaste over, you know, take this toothpaste over any competitive toothpaste. On e-commerce, relationships have nothing to do with it. The amount of revenue that's sold on Amazon is tied to only one factor, which is how many people visit your page, and of those people, how many people decide to add it to the cart and buy it. So if you can display to a customer why your toothpaste is in fact better than the competitive toothpaste, with the right images and the right text and the right, you know, reviews and the right price point, then you will outperform any other toothpaste. Doesn't make a difference how long they've been on the market. Doesn't make a difference who they know. You can outsell a competitive toothpaste that may have been selling in the United States since, you know, the last 50 years, simply because your product page is more persuasive for a customer to add it to cart than their product page. And that's a massive opportunity, obviously, for anybody entering the market, because that just comes down to the question of how great is your product and how well do you display it. So that's the first world, is just wanted to open up that Amazon is a massive opportunity for brands looking to enter the market in the United States. You can have a pretty quick turnaround from launch to revenue. And if the product is successful, you can have a pretty quick turnaround from launch to actually gaining market share within your space. Now, the second area I just want to talk about, and I'll go through this quickly, is Albert Scott. Albert Scott helps brands launch on Amazon. That means that we kind of help in 3 areas. These 3 areas is a breakdown of success on Amazon. So that is kind of how we set it up, and that is how we work together with the brands we work with. So the 3 areas are retail management, marketing management, listing management. Retail management is the management of sales of products on Amazon. That means what's going to be my selling price? How much money do I make on that sale price? How much inventory do I have on Amazon? How much do I need to send to Amazon? Is Amazon asking me for any documentation or paperwork and pieces like that? So retail management is everything around the retail sale of the product on Amazon. Listing management is the management of my product page on Amazon. Do I have the right text? Do I have the right graphics? Am I going to be found on the right searches? Am I persuading people that come through the right searches to buy my product? Did I do a good job talking about my brand? And finally, and foremost, how well do I convert potential shoppers into customers when they visit my page? And finally, the last piece is marketing management. Marketing management means that Amazon has a very rich infrastructure for displaying your product to the right people. And if you employees spend correctly, you can, of course, build revenue and sales and a long-term product on the platform. That's called Amazon marketing, and that is the employing of funds to generate revenue on the Amazon platform. And we have a team as well that manages the marketing for brands on Amazon, especially at launch, to help them gain momentum and sales on the platform. Just a quick, set of steps here for launching a brand, just to give you how practically speaking, how it happens. When you launch a brand on Amazon, the first step is you create a financial model. What that means is you need to know what your retail price is going to be. And to choose a retail price that makes sense, you also have to understand what the fees reduced from that retail price are in order to see what you're going to be netting per unit. So if you sell your product for $20, you're going to get $12 back, and potentially that might be a good enough margin for you to leave some space and profitability. You may have to sell for 25, and you may want to sell for 15. But you need a model to understand what the fees are in order to understand what the retail price is. The second step is, of course, you need an effective marketing campaign in order to know that when your product does get on Amazon, you're not just going to be sitting there, you're going to be actually be selling. The third step is obviously receiving goods at an Albert Scott warehouse. We need to prepare those goods for Amazon. The goods are going to be received by an Albert Scott warehouse, prepared for Amazon, shipped to Amazon. When a customer orders it, Amazon will ship it to the customer. The fourth step is you have to understand what the search terms to sell the product are, to make sure, of course, that when the product is up on Amazon, we're pushing the right searches, so that if you have a Blueberry Kids toothpaste, that you're on search, Blueberry Children's toothpaste, and Blueberry Kids toothpaste, and blueberry flavored toothpaste for kids. These are different searches. We got to make sure that you are, of course, presented on those searches. The fifth stage and the most important prior to launch is making sure your product page, of course, is in the best way, presents your product in the best way possible and is most persuasive for customers to buy that product, because your success in Amazon is tied very strongly to how well you convince shoppers when they visit your product page to turn into a customer. And of course, finally, once a product is live on Amazon with your high-grade product listing, we have to execute that marketing campaign to make sure that your revenue is there and that you are positioned to sell, and of course, that you'll be doing business long-term on the platform. Now, jumping to the final stage of my presentation, just to show you a product we've launched on Amazon actually in the last 6 months out of Zambia, is a textured vegetable protein, a grocery product. They delivered a container to my warehouse about 5.5 months ago, and we've launched on the platform since. So just to show you the product on the platform, let's just see if this works. Kaz, people still see my screen? So here is the soy textured vegetable protein product. As you can see, it's got 165 reviews since we've launched it. Here's the optimized product page, hitting all the product features that my listing team worked on. And of course, this is persuasive for people searching for vegan products. It's a resealable bag. It's a large 18-ounce bag. Here's a lifestyle image showing the product in use. Of course, your nutrition facts with more product features, high in protein, high in fiber, gluten-free, preservative-free. Another product use saying, hey guys, you can use this in stir-fry sauces and salads. And of course, a brand story graphic talking about the Zambian-based brand and what type of, and what they're about. So this is an example of a product we've launched, of course, on the platform. And this is another graphic on the bottom of the page. Again, another opportunity to convince a customer to sell. Now, the reason why this product sells is because when you type in TVP, which stands for textured vegetable protein, as you can see here, the product is listed right away. And the same thing with the searches that, if you type in TVP textured vegetable protein, another search. And of course, if you look, you'll see the product listed right here as well. So the key feature for selling product on Amazon is making sure that your products are convincing and that they're showing up on search in order to gain visibility and sales. And finally, this brand itself did more than $50,000 in the last 5 months since launch. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say. From launch to revenue, they've been selling thousands. In fact, we're past the 10,000 unit mark already since we've launched the brand 6 months ago with a pretty minimal marketing. So that's kind of just a practical example of what we're looking at here. And I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation, and I think I kept it pretty quick. Kaz, back to you.
Thank you very much, Hlomo, for that presentation. That wraps up our presentations. We're going to take, I think, 5 minutes question and answer. I see there are some questions that are in the chat box, so we'll start with those. If you've got other questions, either you raise up your hand or you type them in the chat box. I see one of the questions has already been answered, which was directed at Paul regarding, and the question was, I would like to find out if you are only food and beverage limited, or your service offering is diverse, including diamonds. And the answer was they manage a diverse portfolio. So they would want to know what products in particular, then they make a decision. Then the next question, which is directed at Warwick, is approximately how many buyers or sellers do you have, and in which products? I see that you have been supported by USAID. Are you a fully commercial company now, or partly social as well? Warwick?
Thanks very much, Kaz. It's the buyers and sellers obviously vary. It's throughout the product range. It's your more commoditized products do have a lot more buyers have a lot more buyers and sellers than more niche products. So it all varies dependent on each product. And then from a company perspective, yes, African Trade Platform is a standalone commercial operation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please raise your hand and we get your question attended to. So Northern Cape, there you have got a basket of service providers. So from a full state represented here, also FDA consultants. You also have route to market and e-commerce. You've got quite a bouquet of services and the experts on the call. Any other questions? Okay, it looks like we do not have, we just had those two questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to write to us. Frank is going to share with you the details of the people that you can reach out to. So with that said, just to thank you, colleagues, and yielding to Frank to close for us. Frank, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaz, for that. And also thank you for steering us through the agenda and keeping us on time. I would in particular like to thank all of our speakers. It was very interesting to hear the breadth of presentations, both from the angle of the Northern Cape and the potential that the Northern Cape offers for exports and the companies within Northern Cape, but also to hear the perspective of our Florida-based presenter and what the opportunities are within just one state within the US. Likewise, the process of registration from our other presenters and the process of onboarding with a platform like OnDeck, and also how it is possible to facilitate through a company such as Albert Scott and OnDeck, how the process can be facilitated to introduce, navigate, and sell product in the US market. It is a complex operating environment, but it is, as you can see from this presentation, there's a wealth of resources there which can be tapped into to enable companies in Northern Cape to be able to take advantage of potential opportunities in the US. As Cos said, it's very important that we maintain contacts and we follow up on inquiries. So if you have any inquiries, please send them to us, and please feel free to reach out to those who've presented today. I would like to ask that the presentations that were made are forwarded to us so that we can share them with all the participants and anybody else who may be interested in seeing them. So with that, I think that is all I have to say. We have a screen, I think, or a slide that shows who can be contacted if any of our participants have particular questions. Can we see that? Yeah, there we go. So in those particular countries, there are the our project representatives in each of the countries. So please feel free to reach out to any of those, and they will respond and point you in the right direction. I know today we have some participants from Angola, from Namibia, but of course mainly from Northern Cape. Then we have a slide with some upcoming events that may appeal to our participants. I think it's at the other end. Thank you. So there we have some upcoming events that may be of interest to our especially our Northern Cape participants, namely the one there on the 2nd and 3rd of March, which is next week. So if you're interested, we can forward the link and you're more than welcome to join. So with that, I would like to thank all for participating today. It was a very, very interesting session, and please feel free to stay in touch and reach out if you have any particular questions, not just to us, but also to our experts who joined us. Thank you, everybody.